we now have somebody gloating. Look, see, China's come around and we kind of beat the trade, war we had. Did we? How much money did we lose, businesses, during this whole time it was going on? I kept trying to tell the listeners that. They would get mad at me and send me nasty emails. I said, do you realize every month this drags on, it's costing every one of us more money? We might not realize it, but at the end of the month, you wonder, well, gee, why is my pocketbook not quite as full as it normally is? Especially when you want to go out.
Well, I think that it's through awareness of what's going on around you that we will succeed as a people. And I think that one of the things that you're doing, whether people agree with you or not, that's not really the point. The point is that you have a right to express facts as you see them. It's called the First Amendment. We still have a Constitution. We still have a Bill of Rights. Yes, your show is an entertainment show, and I find it extremely entertaining. But every now and then, if you basically happen to drop a bomb that makes people uncomfortable, perhaps they should get a little uncomfortable, because then they need to look at what is really going on around them and examine that. And I think that you're doing that. I think James with the Paranormal News is doing that. You're basically, presenting aspects of reality that need to be looked at and need to be thought about. So, hey, keep up the good work.
I won't say the radio station, okay? But the first week of March, I'm going to be, besides doing Night Dreams Talk Radio, I'm going to come on earlier in the day. And I'm going to be on a radio station, which they're going to hear me in Washington, D.C., and I was offered a political talk show, and I took it. The contract is signed, and the first week of March, I'm going to be broadcasting on AM, FM, one of the biggest stations in the whole area. So I'll be flooding Washington, D.C., and so they're going to hear my political views very shortly. But that's separate from Night Dreams Talk Radio, totally separate.
I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but give them hell, Gary.
Well, I just look at, not just because I'm a senior citizen. The thing is, I just look, and I always have looked at what my grandmother, my grandfather, what they didn't have, because they didn't, they weren't able, to save much money when they worked. So they lived on very little money of Social Security. They just barely made ends by. My grandmother had to be a babysitter, a house cleaner, up to her 70s, late 70s, doing that to make ends meet. It scared me back then. And I'm looking at why right now would they start cutting people. I'm talking a huge number of people off of food stamps. Now, there's a lot of people it probably could be working, and those people should be eliminated, but not instantly. They should be given, a certain period of time, and that's it. Or get a job training.
Talking about a grace period.
Yeah, a security blanket. That right. I see. But I look at the people that are on disability. Okay, maybe they have mental issues where they can't hold a job down, or they have physical, disabilities, or they served our country and have mental disabilities or physical disabilities, and they have to live on their pensions. And to sit there and either have it dropped or cut back, or if they're deemed physically able to work, even if they're a emotional basket case, you realize how many people will commit suicide seriously over if they had their disability cut off?
You bring up a really good point. We're having between 22 and 25 veterans a day commit suicide, and it's primarily due to PTSD. Now, how many people realize that? I care because I'm a veteran. You're a veteran. I basically totally support the men and women who serve in uniform. I think that a lot of times they're used and abused, and the thing that really upsets me is that, a lot of these people put their lives on the line. They've gone back for 4, 5, 6 tours in the Middle East, and they come back, and how many of them end up homeless? How many of them are just basically given psychotropic drugs and they're sent back out there into the field and they're saying, oh, well, you're fine. I know, I got a neighbor kid. This kid's in his early 20s. He's done, 5 tours already. I mean, I don't know how many tours you did in Vietnam, but I could say one, from personal experience. It took a couple years to come back from it. You're going out over and over and over again. I got a problem with that.
I do, but then to sit back and you know what? And sit there and all of a sudden maybe now they're going to be worried about, is my disability going to be, cut? Am I not going to be able to buy my medicine? Am I not be able to buy food or pay my rent? Then you're going to find these people are the ones that are going to commit suicide. And I'll tell you what is one life worth? Okay. And let alone how many is thousands, because you know what? People have committed suicide because of disability cuts in it in the past where they couldn't, for example, the government says, oh, now you can't have pain pills anymore because it's bad for you. But they are so physically, one, dependent on it. Two is they can't function without it because of their disability, their pain that they're physically in 24/7. And a lot of them actually committed suicide because they couldn't stand the pain. And you know what? The doctors are scared to prescribe medicine because they don't want their license removed. We're in a shitload of problems in this country right now.
Yeah, you're right, and I think part of the problem. I mean, I can attest to the fact that I have osteoarthritis, but I deal with it. I try to deal with it with turmeric is really good for that. It's an anti-inflammatory, so I use that, and I try to stay away from any drugs. My doctor offered me opioids, and he offered me another one that starts with an A that I can't remember the exact name of, but that caused severe constipation. So I thought, let's see, I can either have a problem with potential addiction, or I can basically be bound up all the time. Now, I don't think I'm interested in either one.
I don't know. That's what gets me is right now I'm very concerned. And you know what? The people out there, they sit there and they just accept it, what's going on. I mean, seriously. If you got somebody sitting there saying, I'm going to cut all these grants, I'm going to do all this stuff, and you know what? Just look at the pattern it's been. Again, this trade war went on. What did we really accomplish? We didn't accomplish anything.
Well, I hope, and I really do hope that something positive comes of all this. Especially, he says, well, this is just stage 1. We're fixing the trade war, and we're going to do stage 2 and stage 3. I hope, I really do, that what he's saying, they're going to accomplish. They do, because God knows there's been a lot of damage done. So, all I can say is it's water under the bridge, Gary. You and I can't do anything about the damage that's been done, but you as a person that basically will have a voice on that new show that you have, people are going to, hopefully you can make them sit up and pay notice, especially those sweet and loving people we call politicians who act like they really care about Gary and they care about James and they care about Tom, but I think they become extremely self-serving, and I really question. And it doesn't, that's both sides of the aisle. But hopefully, all I can do is keep hoping that people wake up. That's why we did that one song, Where Empires Go to Die. We've spent how many billions of dollars, $1.5 billion a day over there, and we have a grid that for $2 billion, that's a week, less than a week and a half, we could basically fix the grid for what we're spending over there. One EMP and it's all over but the shouting. Or someone launches a nuke 300 miles above Nebraska, we're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and you know what? We don't think about that. We just got to build the wall. Okay, well, you know what? As you mentioned about the new tunnel, they're great at making tunnels. I'm sure there's a lot of tunnels there that we don't even know about. But what good is it? Like I said, the wall, if they can go over it or come through it, and it doesn't supposed to be that way, or it's so well made that a windstorm comes through and just blows over a big section. I want to see the money put in where it belongs. One is, let's cheer up our grid. Let's look at people on Social Security, Medicare and all that stuff and help them out. Prescription prices are crazy. I think it's the time the government should get in there and say, hey, look to these companies. Do you want to be in business? Do you want to keep making 1,000% profit off of people that maybe are dying?
There are months where, my wife has got advanced MS and advanced Alzheimer's, and I'm spending over $1,000 a month for medical. I mean, and I'm talking about prescription drugs. So I know of what you speak. It's not cheap, and there are a lot of people who need help, and that's across the board. I mean, look at all that money that they wasted on that dog and pony show. You could have gotten a tax break. I could have gotten a tax break. James could have gotten a tax break. Or you could have paid for somebody's education, or you could have funded veterans, or you could have funded seniors. You could have put some of that money back into Social Security. They're really great at wasting our money, and they don't care because it's not their money.
No, that's the scary part. I mean, I am so disgusted about politicians right now that I don't even think this next time I'm going to vote, because I'll be honest with you, there's nobody honestly worth voting for. None. I hate to say it. None of them I would vote for, because they all aren't going to do what we need to have done. We need a president that actually thinks about the people, not himself or his family, or trying to make a buck while he's a president. Or I don't understand what's going on. The people in Congress and the Senate, are we all turning into sheep? Are we going back to Nazi Germany? Because I tell you what, these senators, okay, they know in their heart what they heard. Why couldn't they vote? You know why? Because they are scared they're going to lose their frickin' job. That's what's going on in this country. Everybody's scared about they're going to lose their job. Nobody wants to tip the boat. Everybody knew, if somebody, kind of had an opposite opinion as a senator, especially a Republican, and you voted the opposite way, you're going to be, pretty much history. Perfect example. 2 days after somebody was acquitted, guess what? The hatchet's starting to come down.
Well, one of the things that you started to talk about was, we were talking about you, Sam Ridden, that friend of mine that was a lieutenant colonel. And because you deal with conspiracies on your show, I'm going to bring this up just as an idea for your listeners.
Well, can you hold?
They have lockdown cities.
Okay, I need you to hold that, because we need to go on our last break. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes with Tom, so we'll find out what he has to say. So guess what? We're going to listen to this again. Why not?
Jake the Maggot was a biker and drove his motorcycle very fast. Drove a big chop Harley with a gang colors jacket and ran down citizens for laughs. He had an old lady named Petula who packed an automatic 45 gun. They had just come up from California where they'd shot 6 cops for fun. Jake, he thought it was the best there was. He's down the interstate he saw, till the day he tangled with the county sheriff, who they all call 104. It was late on a Thursday evening, and Jake, he was feeling kind of mean, cause he just run out of his favorite drug, the one called amphetamine. So we sauntered up to Petula, and he said, say, baby, let's split. There's a little gas station on down the road that might be fun to hit. So they drove up to the station, and they both jumped off of Jake's ride. They were up to derision at Jake's decision as they both sauntered inside. The attendant, he was an old man, and you know he didn't think it very funny. When Petula pulled out that great big gun, said, honey, give me